Welcome back. You tuned into the Friday edition of your most favorite breakfast show, Good Morning Namibia. Now, this morning's Police Corner edition, we review the week as it concludes, focusing on the happenings of the past week on the side of the law enforcement and crimes that stood out. Joining me in studio with an update on what exactly transpired is Chief Inspector Itetila Shapaka from the Khomas Regional Police. Good morning, sir, and welcome back to Good Morning Namibia.
Good morning to you, Denver, and many thanks for having me. Good morning, Namibia.
What has the week been like?
Well, one that is quite busy, perhaps in the sense that it's been month-end, or perhaps that the month-end fell in the middle of the week. So we've had really quite a few crimes of concern, and also some suicides and drownings here and there. So it was one that was very busy. So we have seen actually the most of it is robberies. We are still inundated and really overwhelmed with a number of robberies that are concerned. We had one where a vehicle was hijacked in Rocky Crest, the areas of Rocky Crest. We had the biggest one that you saw on Wednesday afternoon, during broad daylight, and where suspects managed to get away with $1.3 million. And indeed, just in front of Nedbank, Black Chain, and some shots were fired. So some lives were in danger, I can tell you that, and that is a cause of concern. So on top of that, we also had some rape cases, one reported at Grootop and another one here in Windhoek. But all of these, the suspects are arrested. The only one that perhaps nothing was so far recovered or done is the robbery that I'm referring to, and therefore the general public is urged to really work together with the police.
Thank you, Chief. In a moment, we look at some of those incidents a bit more closely.
Yes.
But the hot spots that you have flagged, the most prevalent crimes that did occur over the past week, specifically robberies, do we know what gave rise to these specific hot spots, but also criminal activities?
Well, the one of Rocky Crest, for instance, that is ongoing. We have a lot of robberies happening in Rocky Crest, especially the house breakings with intent to rob. You know, robbery with aggravating circumstances while you're in the comfort of your home. These guys just pitch up. You know, but the community itself feels a little bit unsafe, and that is why from the side of the police we have just intensified our visibility in that area a little bit. But you never know, especially when the criminals are syndicated in a sense that they are providing each other with information. The moment police are in there doing rounds and anything, nothing happens. In just that one moment, it takes split seconds, then you hear somebody was attacked in the house, or somebody was attacked in front of the house, or while they are moving towards the shopping center, somebody was robbed, and then that is how it happens. Or just on top of towards the new location, the extension, you find that especially people that are exercising, they get attacked very easily. So that is a cause of concern. Now, the one of Nedbank, it's one that caught everybody off guard. I mean, it's broad daylight.
Walk us through what allegedly happened there, please.
No, what is said to have happened is that the guards were doing their normal rounds, you know, dropping off money at specific branches of Nedbank. And then immediately when they came there, was two of the guards, one of them was a guard, the other one was supposed to transport money. And as soon as they just took out, you know, the money to take them inside the bank, these guys just came up of nowhere. And then, unfortunately, some shots were fired. And then they were caught in a position that they could hardly react, or they would risk it all. So, unfortunately, the guys had black ravers on, and they're very difficult to you know, sort of identify. But the vehicle that was used as an escape vehicle has been identified. So we are hot on their trails. So somehow, we're just saying somebody somewhere knows something about what have happened. So we're urging them to come forth and provide us with that information. So indeed, that is what has happened. And one thing that I left out, perhaps, the shots that were fired. There was damage to property. If you go in front of, you know, Nedbank, the branch, the Black Chain, you will see that the shot damaged the whole door, that glass door into the shop. And also the security guard vehicle was hit on the bonnet. And, you know, it's a whole damage. And you're just saying these kind of bullets can ricochet anywhere. People were standing all over, public members. People's lives were endangered in that robbery. So we're just saying it might have traumatic effects to those that witnessed it, or even the guards that were in there. So yeah, that is shortly what happened.
Chief, it is so that it's almost 48 hours since this incident. What is the likelihood of recovering the loot and arresting the suspects?
Well, you are actually more concerned about, arresting the suspects. As soon as you have a lead, then the rest comes with a package. I mean, indeed, if you think about it, when you have a suspect or two, then that leads to the apprehension of the rest of the suspects that were involved, and eventually the recovery of the loot. But the longer it takes, then they get...
The colder the trail gets.
Exactly. So we are just saying, then we need really the assistance of the general public. This has happened last week or 2 weeks ago when the young woman was hijacked off a car, and the public really came forth with information that led us to the successful apprehension of those 8 suspects, as well as recovery of all the car parts that were stripped from the vehicle. So this is the one time again that we need to come together, provide that information, and really assist the police, because like I said, it happened so fast, and it was like, it was daring. It was like a whole dream, and everybody could not believe what was happening. And
have the guard and the driver been taken in for questioning?
Yes, that is protocol. That has to be done. As part of procedures. We just need to eliminate any sort of suspicion on their side. We just need to make sure that there isn't any question marks that left unattended. So obviously, that is protocol. If there is anything whatsoever that is not adding up, somehow we need to link them to a possibility of them being involved. So somehow we need to eliminate that possibility. And in the absence of any sort of linkage, then we need to just go back to the basics, and then obviously try to unpack that as a basic robbery that have happened. But in the absence of anything suspicious, it gets colder and colder as the time goes.
Because of the daring and risky nature of the undertaking, and because of how it had caught everyone by surprise, how can members of the public in the vicinity, how can employees of the enterprises around that area protect themselves under such circumstances?
Look, they were, like you rightly said, everybody was caught off guard. Everybody was surprised really what was happening. Robbers usually come up and bark all sorts of instructions. And when that happens, it's not really advisable that you try to be heroes and stuff. You just heed to the instructions, but try to get anything distinctive, anything at all that can lead the officers to any sort of identifying these suspects. Like I indicated, their faces were covered, so we don't have anything whatsoever to link them through facial recognition or any sort of physical identification. But that does not limit us to the basics, like to say if they had any tattoos, the type of firearms that were used. We're still going for ballistics and things like that, but that is a long route that takes ages, and the longer it takes, it gets cold. So we want the general public to remain calm in situations like that. We want the general public to really just listen to what the robbers are saying, heed to that instructions, because many a times when you are caught off guard, you are not in a position to react. So we don't want heroes that, in the end, we end up having casualties, or we end up having fatalities. So get anything on the vehicle, because usually they tamper with number plates or anything. But the description of the vehicle or anything at all, because we've seen that most of the vehicles that might be used in robberies as getaway vehicles are either rental vehicles, and we also urge the owners of these rental companies to really ensure that the individuals that are renting their vehicles are physically the people whose identity documents are being left there. Because many a times there's a whole dichotomy between the two, where you realize that I'm reporting as Denver, but I'm not Denver. And the ID that I'm living there and the license is for you as Denver. So eventually when we do investigation, you establish that no, this is not the person. You call Denver, Denver is in Keetmanshoop, but the individual that was committing a robbery, who hired the car in Windhoek, is here in Windhoek. So that is a cause of concern. That's why we are saying we need to do more,
Very well.
in establishing people's identities. Yes.
If one has regard to the MO under these circumstances, if we also equally have regard to the surge in robberies, particularly in the capital, would you say that we are dealing with a syndicate?
Not really. The reason why I'm saying not really a syndicate, one syndicate, perhaps many of them. Like I've indicated, they are operating in different syndicates and not one bigger one that is operating. It is a fact that, you know, like I said, 2 weeks ago, we managed to arrest the other individuals. They are still in custody. They don't have bail. But yet we have another robbery. So that tells you this is not one syndicate. It might be minor syndicates operating out there, but not one individual one. So, but like I've already indicated to you, they position themselves strategically so well that they are able to provide themselves with information in terms of where the police vehicles are, in terms of reaction time. It might even be one just standing in front of a police station that, you know, informs the other, you can go ahead, their vehicle is standing here and whatever. Or even insiders, you never know. You never rule anything out in terms of insider trading, in terms of information provision from within, you know, whether it's a security setup or whatever. So we are just saying, how did they even know that was $1.3 million out there? So these are some of the question marks that needs to be answered before we get any further, you know, to eliminate the room of likely suspects within, from within the systems. Either, you know, but, you know, you don't really want to delve too much into this because...
Of course,
yes,
absolutely.
You
and
know,
we want to respect the process.
The fear of jeopardizing investigations, you know, that is one of them. But we're just saying, these are basics, these are questions that need to be answered before we get deeper into the matters.
Now, if one is cognizant of the shots that were fired, what evidence does that give rise to? Or let me rephrase, what likely evidence does such acts give rise to?
You know, the issue of shots fired leads mostly into the direction of, you know, ballistics and stuff. But then to do ballistics, you somehow need a firearm.
Or spent cartridge.
Spent cartridges and, you know, things in that line that sort of links a specific firearm. But now we're saying the weapons that were used in the robberies got away with the suspects, including, I think, the shotgun of one of the security guards. So tracing that might also take time. Like I said, these are processes. It's not something that happens overnight. It's not something that you expect to get results tomorrow. So obviously, when you get the potential firearms that were used and you sort of link them to the cartridges, spent cartridges, and, you know, perhaps the projectiles again, they gets a little bit difficult, and it's a process that you are unlikely to sort of unpack overnight. So that is likely to take time. But like I've already indicated, at least when there's a direction of potential suspects, when you are linked to such crimes and then you get one or two things that can be used as physical evidence or material evidence, then that is something, it's a discussion of another day, but obviously that might lead to something.
Thank you, Chief. Now it's the weekend after payday, and bearing all of this uncertainty in mind, bearing all of this safety in mind, what warning do you have for members of the public?
Well, just for the general public to obviously, you know, take care of their own safety out there. Police obviously cannot be everywhere every time, and we have seen many times when, like I've indicated to you before, when the police are out of the vicinity, then things happen so fast, and then nobody knows what happens because we are not really in a position to really pay attention to what is happening, and eventually you realize that it happens so fast and you do not even pick the number plate of a vehicle that people went with. You know, we are just saying security consciousness, people to be really vigilant. Any sort of, you know, anything that makes you uncomfortable, to really just relay that information over to the police. And also, it's month end, you know, that is why people are carrying large sums of money, to really discourage people to, you know, draw large sums of money and rather resort to EFTs, that is electronic fund transfers, or any other sort of electronic means of, you know, doing transactions. So because obviously people having gotten their salaries midweek, they are likely to spend a lot this coming weekend. But we are not saying we are going to shift the whole focus on the general public. The police is obviously going to intensify. You heard from Sergeant Mvula that we are having sort of joint operations that is targeting all, including criminal activities, including warrant of arrests, traffic, both traffic and those that have absconded court in criminal activities. And it's a whole lot of issues that we are going to target, just to eliminate room for maneuver for criminals. And we are going to target the hotspots that have already been identified. We're going to intensify our visibility in areas like Rocky Crest, which is, highly being targeted for robberies and house breakings, in the shopping malls, like where the robbery happened. So we are going to do the most with the little that is there, sort of just to stretch the resources that is the administrative staff or support staff need to come out of the offices and just go out there and just increase the visibility a little bit. But we are saying relay any sort of suspicious activities, whether it's movement, whether it's vehicles, relay that information to the police and ensure that anything and everything you are doing there, your safety should be your concern. So safety first.
Chief, your brief final remarks before we let you go.
Yes, indeed. It is still on the issue of the weekend. We are saying the weekend that just, that we are heading into is likely to have most of these issues relating to robberies, house breakings, and people also perhaps alcohol intake at clubs and shabin outlets, all these liquor outlets. So any sort of suspicious people, especially the ones that are daring the robbers that snatch and run people's phones and what, should be reported to the police. At traffic intersections especially, we have seen that most of the criminals get there and then, they try to snatch people's bags while they're driving or whilst you're in the car. So just make sure that you lock yourself inside the vehicle. And when we are going out there to do our shopping, do not leave any sort of variables that attract unnecessary attention from the criminals, especially in the vehicle, to be straying outside, because they're likely to break into the vehicles and take. And let us make sure that our vehicles are not jammed, such that our properties are stolen from the vehicles, especially at shopping malls. So that is my short briefing remarks.
Chief, what a marathon of a police corner. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for sharing your expertise this morning.
It is a pleasure talking to you, Denver, and many thanks for having me.
That was Chief Inspector Itetila Shapaka from the Khomas Regional Police talking to us about being vigilant throughout. We'll be right back after a brief break.